coming to celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day with me. I'm going to start by making this space a sacred space and by doing a sweetgrass smudge with all of you. For Aboriginal people, every place in all the universe is a sacred space, and what I'm going to do is just acknowledge that space and that we're coming together to put our thoughts together to create good things. And when Aboriginal people pray, we pray to 7 directions: the east, the south, the west, the north, and to the above, below, and inside.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's windy.
It's really windy.
See. And my back. Thank you.
And then I'm going to go around. If you could take the matches with you, and I will first bless you. So while you were walking up, I was explaining that we are doing a smudge to create a sacred space as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. And so this is sweetgrass.
We give thanks for the East, the door to the sacred circle, to new life, the rising sun, to our babies, and for the people of the East. To the South, the summer, the noonday sun, young people, fresh ideas, and for the people who live in the sun. To the West, the western door, the path to the next life, the setting sun, maturity for adulthood, sober second thoughts for the Aboriginal people. We turn to the north, the cold of winter, the winter sun, the dark, for wisdom for our elders, coming to the end of the good red road, passing on knowledge for the people who live in the cold.
Gonna try to be loud, but come closer if you can't hear me. So. I want to begin with to acknowledge the land that we are gathering on that once belonged to the Nipmuc people. Acknowledging the land is not a way to say who are the only people that belong here, but to have an appreciation for where we all come from and where we all live now. I am a Métis Anishinaabe artist, filmmaker, writer, dancer, and speaker. Originally from Canada, I currently live in Stow with my husband and my twin boys. I attended the Vancouver Film School and lived in the area where the Canadian serial killer Robert Pickton looked for his victims, who are all Indigenous women. And I consider myself very lucky to have never experienced that kind of violence. The artwork that I'm best known for is the Men's Banner Project. This series is a combination of social artistry, performance, and installation created in response to the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women in North America, and the ongoing epidemic issue of violence against women. The Men's Banner is a site-specific installation that reclaims space in an Indigenous way. I photograph the progression and document the community's interaction and reaction to the art piece. As an activist, I attended the 8th World March of Women International meeting in the Philippines as one of the 4 Canadian delegates and the only Indigenous person from North America. I worked on several documentary films, animations, and interactive media projects at different stages of development for the National Film Board of Canada. At the same time, I received funding to write and direct 2 short films, Dreamcatcher and Tickly Kick. These films are science fiction fantasy based on Indigenous mythology. I have been awarded 2 Human Rights Awards, the Sybil Shack Human Rights Youth Award for my work on violence against women, and the YWCA Women of Its Distinction Award in Public Awareness and Communications for my work with the Men's Banner Project. I feel it's always important to tell who you are, where you come, who your people are, so that people, when you share your experience, you're known, and people can share who they are too. Tonight we've come together because one of the biggest human rights issues around the world is violence against women. According to Amnesty International, Indigenous women suffer disproportionately high levels of rape and sexual violence. Native American and Alaskan Native women are more than 2.5 times more likely to be raped or sexually assaulted than women in the U.S. in general. More than 1 in 3 will be raped during their lifetimes, compared to 1 in 5 in the U.S. overall. 86% of reported offenders are non-Native men. Additionally, a recent study documented more than 500 missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in 71 cities across the USA. Though the numbers are likely undercounted due to deficiencies in data of both law enforcement and the media on this issue. In Canada, there are at least 1,200 Aboriginal women and girls who've been murdered from 1980 to 2012. I feel a great loss to the world knowing that there are women who should have been in my classes beside me. They should have had the opportunities that I had and the same protections. I feel that I will always be less of a person I could be due to never having the chance to know these women. We don't know the stories of the local people, and I'm in the same boat as everyone else here on my knowledge of the original people. There are losses that we have not heard of. One thing I know is that as a foreigner, I have to be sensitive. We need to be sensitive because our insensitivity overpowers and hurts others. Anyone who wants social justice wants to be an authentic human being. I know when looking at the statistics of missing and murdered Indigenous women, you can be overwhelmed with the sadness and disbelief. It is too big of a burden for one person to carry alone. That's why we are here tonight. And there are actions we can continue to take to stop the violence and create accountability. We have to normalize intercultural relationships, or they will always be strange, intimidating, and exotic. We have to normalize these friendships and create connections within our communities. We need to create more opportunities to come together as a community, not only to honor and mourn those we've lost to senseless violence, but to celebrate all our cultures and histories. We can lobby our government to ensure that all reports of rape and sexual violence against Indigenous women are promptly and thoroughly investigated, and that offenders are prosecuted and appropriately punished in accordance and with national and international norms on due process. Petition for legislature after full and effective consultations with tribes that requires data collection on missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, including standardized guidelines for tribes and federal, state, and local law enforcement for responding to cases of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. I'd like to take a few moments of silence. Miigwech.